All right. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see people here in this unusually, I don't know what to call it, subtropical post-apocalyptic weather that we're having here. No one can believe that it's 78 degrees in February, but here we are. I'm so glad to welcome everyone to our second 2024 Language Matters. This is, I should say, the first for this new semester. And the last that we'll have in this kind of ongoing proficiency-based series that we've run the last 2 semesters. And beginning next time, so I'll make just a quick announcement. A number of you are picking up these sheets on the way in here that have the remaining events that we've got that TLC is sponsoring or co-sponsoring. You can also go to our website. There are updates daily, basically, on the web page of new events or added events or change venues, places of events, starting with the March Language Matters, which still is person to be determined, but we're really getting it down now to just getting the person's date that she can present. We'll begin a translation study series for us. So we'll do March, April, and then pick up again in February with series on translation, both as art and field of study, as well as from a number of our graduate students who are working on translation projects themselves as a way to fund your graduate career, fill up your CV, and find a profession for yourself. So that's coming up as well. So you'll all join us. To today, I'm very, very happy. Finally, we've lured Melissa into our clutches here. We've been desperately trying to get our schedules to work to have the wonderful Melissa Murphy join us, and finally have managed to do that. I'll literally say just a few words. There was an incredibly long curriculum vitae that I could go through here, but Melissa is she is an associate professor of instruction here at the University of Texas at Austin, and currently for the last 10 years plus has been the director of Spanish language programs and director of the Spanish and Portuguese language program here at UT Austin. She received her PhD in Romance linguistics from us at the University of Texas. She's a home person here. And after getting her BA and MA in Spanish and French, and then Spanish literature in Florida, first at Florida Atlantic University and then at Florida International University. Of particular note regarding the TLC, Melissa joins us in so many capacities, helping the Texas Language Center out in its endeavors. But in particular, I'm always so grateful to her for running one of the center's 398P, our practicum that we have, which is an individual kind of person-on-person, sometimes 2 people on with Melissa, shadowing her through the arduous duty of running what it's like to run a Spanish program at a large university like ours. So we're delighted. I'm going to cut it to there because there's so much about her work in tense, mood, and aspect and history of the language and so forth that I could go into, but I really wanted to go to today's topic, which is something we've all been grappling with as we've moved closer and closer to the University of Texas taking on, rather than a 1 semester, 2 semester, whatever language requirement, but rather a proficiency-based requirement, was the idea of promoting oral proficiency at the intermediate level of instruction. So with that topic today, it's my pleasure to introduce our colleague and friend, Melissa Murphy. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I know you're all very busy and it's late in the day. I'm happy to be here to give this talk. I should just start by saying I was really tempted to title this talk something along the lines of making lemonade out of lemons, because it's a really good example of us being in a situation where we were sort of facing a challenge and disappointed by something, and we turned it into a positive. So that's just to start out. A little bit of background. Some of you may know this, some of you won't. Back in 2010, we shifted to a 6-6-6 model, right? So we had these really intensive classes, 3 semesters, and to be honest, we loved it. Okay, it was working really, really well. However, there was some pressure on us to lower the credit requirement because most other languages were requiring between 12 and 15. So at one point in about 2019, our former undergraduate chair and I were chatting about how we could sort of proactively make that change. And so we thought of this idea of splitting our 611 into 2 3-credit classes, with only one of them being part of the language requirement, and then the other one being optional you know, for students who wanted to continue on for majors or minors or certificates or personal interest. So that was kind of what we decided to do. So now you'll notice our current language requirement is 15 credits. It's 663, right? We had to make a bunch of decisions, and some of them I made with the undergraduate chair and some of them I made on my own later on. But basically I decided that I didn't want to just split 611 into two classes. Like, let's take half the material and put it here and half the material, put it there. I didn't think it would be good for the students only taking one of the classes. So what I decided to do was to redesign the 611 and turn it into just a 3-credit course, 4 skills course for the language requirement, which is now 311. That was a very straightforward change. It wasn't a ton of work. We have the same basic content, but we, you know, lowered our expectations a little bit, made it a little less rigorous, simplified assessments a little bit. So that was kind of step one. And so then for that second course, the undergraduate chair and I thought that the best thing to do would be to turn it into a course focusing on speaking, for a couple reasons. So obviously you probably all know, right, that speaking is like the weakest skill of the students, right? As much as we try to do a lot of speaking activities, you know, we incorporate way more speaking now than we did years ago. Still, it's not really enough. There's never enough time. Students need more practice. So we thought that this would really benefit a lot of our students. And then the second idea was that it could be really appealing for students to take a conversation course. In my years here, I always get students in the final required course saying, I want to keep taking Spanish. What's the next course? And then it's like advanced grammar and composition, and you see their face, right? Because a lot of them really just want to improve their Spanish, you know, communicative skills. So we thought, okay, that's what we'll do. We'll have this 314 be conversation and culture, okay? We also thought that we needed to make these courses concurrent, so students can take them both at the same time. That was a big decision, because we didn't want to extend the time to degree. We didn't want to be adding another semester. So students who are continuing will do 311 and 314 at the same time. So then came the part where I had to make some decisions, and pretty quickly I was able to decide that we weren't going to have a textbook. I was familiar with a few of the conversation textbooks that are available. There are some, but the problem is they're usually for a more advanced level, and this is really just 3rd semester Spanish students. And then also, since they were going to be concurrent courses, I really wanted them to line up well with each other and not be like completely different things with completely different books. So there was no textbook. And this also all happened right at the beginning of the pandemic, because we were already kind of committed to offering the course. So it was that summer of 2020 that I had to create this. And another thing I'll point out is that I don't actually teach this course, but somebody who has taught it is here. So that'll be helpful when you have questions at the end. Okay, so here I just have the course description from the syllabus to give you an idea of my idea for the course and how, you know, what the focus is. This course is designed for intermediate level students with a good foundation in Spanish who are interested in improving their overall communicative abilities. This course will focus primarily on oral communication. However, all 4 skills will be practiced regularly, and the course materials and class format will create opportunities for meaningful oral and written self-expression. Students will watch a variety of short films, feature-length films, and will read a range of texts. These authentic materials will serve as points of departure for journal entries, in-class discussions, debates, and other communicative activities. This point is important here. In this course, grammar will be considered secondary. And for those of you who don't know me, I love grammar. I'm kind of a grammar nerd, but that's not the point of this course, okay? It will be addressed periodically in 2 main ways. One, in context relating to features of particular films and readings. And 2, as a response to questions that arise in class, you know, sort of organic. In other words, grammar should be viewed as a tool that will help students increase their fluency rather than a series of rules to memorize for the sake of accuracy, which is how they often feel in typical lower division classes. So the increased fluency will benefit students who enroll in upper division, as well as students who simply want to communicate more effectively in social and professional contexts, okay? Okay, so this I wanted to show you so you can see how the 2 courses match up. Also, I'll give you some numbers. we have usually about 14 sections of this course, and there are about 6 sections of this course. So somewhere between a third and a half of the students in our 3rd semester course are also taking that one at the same time. Okay, so our 3rd semester Spanish textbook has 4 chapters, and these are the themes that we cover in those chapters. So in chapter 1, we talk about physical appearance, personality, stereotypes, beauty, and self-esteem. So in module 1 of the conversation course, we've got readings about beauty, colorism, bullying. We've got a short film called El Sándwich de Mariana, which addresses bullying specifically. And then the film Pelo Malo. Does anybody know that one? Okay, so it's a really awesome movie about appearance, identity, colorism, etc. So it works really, really well with that first module. The second chapter in the 311 course, events that change the world, social achievements, and festive rituals. So in the conversation course, we talk about feminism, indigenous peoples. There's a video that they have to watch and a film called También la lluvia, Even the Rain. That movie is about a director who goes to Bolivia to make a movie about the conquest of the New World. So there's a lot of historical stuff. And at the same time, there's this issue in Bolivia with privatization of water. So there's a lot of civil unrest going on. So it matches really, really well with the events that change the world. The 3rd module in the 3rd semester course is about environment, marketing, and rights and responsibilities. And over here in the conversation course, we talk about laws, norms, global challenges, political protest. There's a short film called 10 Minutos, which is kind of funny. It's a guy who calls into customer service at a phone company, and he's trying to get some information that they're not allowed to give him, and he's like arguing for 10 minutes. So it talks about laws and norms and ethical conundrums. And then the film No, has anybody seen that one? No? So it's about the referendum in Chile where they decided if they wanted to keep Pinochet or have elections. And it relates to the whole marketing campaign around that. So it matches up perfectly with our 311 material. And then the 4th one, lifestyles, study abroad, and communication between cultures. So in the communication course, we talk about prejudice, immigration, culture shock. Short film called Namnala, which is about immigration and prejudice. And then the student actually gets to choose a film for module 4, okay? So this is just so you can see they go really well together. So the students who are taking both of these, it all works. That, it doesn't feel like something totally unrelated, okay? Any questions about that? No? Okay. Okay, so this is the interesting part. Yes?
I was wondering if you come across any data that shows that the students that take 314 perform better in 311.
No, but that's really interesting. I would assume that they would, just because everything is being reinforced. Yeah, we should do that. Okay, so the really interesting thing about the course and what makes it so different from the other courses is the way the whole thing is structured. So I created all these materials to be done at home. So every day the students have an activity that's their homework to prepare them for class. I mean, we're all familiar with flipped classrooms. That's not really super unusual. But the in-class part is not standardized at all. So there are no set activities that the instructors have to be doing. The entire 50 minutes is open for them to have conversations, debates, etc. All right. So pairs, small group work, whole class discussions, presentations, debates, nothing is standardized. So what's nice about this is it gives the instructors a little bit more autonomy, and it works in this case because this course is taught by faculty members. It's not taught by AIs, okay? So we're able to do that, and it works really well. Also, the nice part about having so much flexibility during class is that it can happen more organically, right? Like, based on your particular group, maybe you start talking about a character and then you start talking about another theme, and wherever it takes you, that's fine. Okay. And fewer time constraints. It's so nice not to have a class where you have to get through pages 27 to 48 in 50 minutes, right? Okay, so this is how it's really, really different, and this is what I was most excited about the class. So for the modules, this is what it looks like on Canvas for the students. So each module is going to have a bunch of activities, and there's one for every day. So every day they open it up, they complete that activity before they go to class. Okay, none of this is actually classwork. So this is an example, right? You start with, introduction to the topic, very holistic, and then you move on. There's a reading about bullying. There's an activity about a short film. There's another reading. There's one grammar day. So every module has just one grammar day, okay? And then concepts of beauty, that's another reading. Then you've got 2 days for the movie. And at the end, there's an oral activity. So every module is set up like this. So to give you an idea of what all these are like, I included some examples here. So the first one is introduction to the theme, the beginning of each module. And what I did in that document was I really just threw in a bunch of charts, tables, images, memes, etc., sometimes videos. And so it's basically things for everybody to discuss that relate generally to all the topics in the chapter. And the instructor can use those during class. And then for short films, I have an example here of one of the activities. Oh, it's showing on your computer, but not. Oh, here we go. Nope. Wait. Okay, so this is, I don't know why it's not opening up on mine. All right, so this is the activity here for the 10 minutos. For some reason, I can't scroll down. Basically, what they have to do is they have a pre-activity where they have to match some vocab to learn some important vocab before they watch the film. Then they have some questions about how they feel about customer service, what experiences they've had about customer service. And then afterwards, they're going to have some comprehension questions, some interpretation questions, and some personal reactions. So it's like a 4-page document. So they need to spend a significant amount of time working on that before they come to class. And then they're going to have quite a bit to talk about. Oh, but now it won't remove that. Okay, hold on. All right. There we go. Okay. So for readings, they look something like this, right? The student opens the document and they'll have, oftentimes it's a newspaper article, sometimes it's a blog, sometimes it's something else, but it's usually about 2 pages in length. And this is an example of one on colorism. And then I'm not including the whole activity here, but the types of questions that we ask, and these would be in Spanish, but not everybody here speaks Spanish. So we ask questions like, write your own definition of colorism, mention 2 to 3 things you learned from the reading. Do you think colorism is prevalent in the US? Can you think of an example? And then make a list of 5 words you learned from the reading, because we're encouraging students to kind of build their own vocab lists, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. The second part of this reading on colorism, it's actually some Facebook comments that I found. I grabbed them. And there's this whole debate here between these people about colorism. And, some of them are saying, yes, it's prevalent in my country and in all these other countries I've been to, while other people are saying, no, you're playing the victim. As long as you feel good about yourself, there's no problem. And it gets pretty heated, right? So the students read this. And then they have to answer some questions like, summarize the arguments made by the different people. Which do you agree with most and why? What conclusions can you draw from reading these comments? Okay, so films. So I mentioned before that for modules 1, 2, and 3, there's a set film. Everybody watches the same film. And like I said, this one works really well with, identity and appearance and colorism. And this one is great for the historical events. And this one was about marketing. So they relate really well. For the 4th module, first I'm going to talk about the activities. So for movies, they have 2 days to work on the movies. They start with a pre-activity, which is going to ask them to do some things and answer some questions. So for example, for this one, it's listen to this 3-minute audio about the film Pelo Malo, answer a few questions about the movie, the term Pelo Malo and its connotations, visit the following website and find information about the director, the location of filming, the historical context, etc. Look at images of Caracas from the film and describe how they make you feel. Jot down 3 or 4 themes you think will be addressed in the film, etc., etc. Then they watch the movie. And then afterwards, they have a series of activities. And they'll include questions like describe the characters, their behaviors, their feelings, which character is the most complex, why, describe the neighborhood, Does the director have an impartial view of Caracas and Venezuela? What stereotypes can you identify? Did you like the film? What was the main message you got from the film? Okay, and they have 2 days, so it's not just like a 15-minute discussion that's squeezed into, you know, a regular type of class. So for module 4, as I was choosing movies, I was stuck on module 4, and there were a lot of movies about immigration. So I asked all my friends and colleagues to please send me names of movies on immigration that they liked, and they did. So what I wound up doing was I just made a big document with about 12 options for the students. And for each one, I put a synopsis and then a link to the trailer so they could watch them all and read about them and then pick the one that they wanted to see. And then in class, you know, the instructors are guiding them in terms of like having conversations about the movies, maybe making movie reviews, maybe mini presentations, however they want to use that class period. Okay, so grammar. Grammar is just the 1 day of each module, and it's always contextualized. So what I decided to do to give something to the instructors for the students to work with at home was I found examples of whatever the grammar topic was from the 311 class, from the readings that we did, from the films that we did. So like here, this was a reading about bullying, another reading about bullying, and the short film, El Sándwich de Mariana. So these are examples of ser and estar, and the students have to explain the usage. Why is it ser or why is it estar? A similar example with subjunctive. So this happens to be the 10 minutos short film, tons of subjunctive. You can see here so many examples. So I pulled these quotes from the film, and the students have to choose, you know, why is it subjunctive? Is it willing and wishing, doubting, etc. And at the end of the semester, in module 4, we kind of review a little bit of everything. So I have this one where they have examples from one of the short films that contain the ser y estar, past tenses, subjunctive, and the hypothetical sentences. And they have to explain in their own words why those were used. But 1 day per module, that's key. Okay, assessments. So it's similar in some ways and very different in some ways to other courses. These are the categories that we have. We've got homework and participation, vocabulary lists, journal entries, exams, in-class speaking activities, and Conversify conversations. So homework and participation, that's pretty straightforward. The homework is all those activities that I've been showing you, right? One for each day. And participation is participation. Vocabulary list is something I decided to do in this class because I had been thinking about it for a very long time, students making their own vocabulary list, and I just decided to do it here. So as they're reading and watching films, they're always jotting down words, they're making their own vocab list, and at the end of each module, they have to submit their vocab list to their instructor, and I think it's about 40 words, if I remember correctly. Journal entries, some instructors are doing this, some instructors aren't, but basically, it's anything the instructor would ask them to do, reflecting on something they read, something they saw, reflecting on their progress, reflecting on their strengths and weaknesses, anything that might be helpful. And then I'm going to talk in detail about exams and the speaking activities, because you're probably curious, like, what are the exams like in this type of class? So the exams are primarily based on content, because it's really what we're trying to do in this class is have it focus more on the readings and the films, right? So they have a speaking section worth 40 points, and it's on campus, right? So they get a prompt or a question, and then they have to record, and it's about 1 minute per recording. So here are a couple examples. Briefly describe the plot of El Sándwich de Mariana. In your opinion, what is the main message of the short film? Mention some strengths and weaknesses of the film. No. Would you recommend it to a friend? Why or why not? So they're speaking for these, they're recording, and we're not like deducting 1.2 points for grammar mistakes. It's really about the message, their ability to communicate their ideas. And then for writing, again, it's very open-ended questions about the themes in the films and the readings. For example, identify the characters in the photos below, include some photos, and write a description of each one. So, you know, they're probably going to be using ser and estar, but that's not really the focus or what we're taking off all the points for. Write a movie review about the film you chose to watch in module 4. What does it teach us about immigration? So that's 80 points. We have a small grammar and context where it's got, you know, the multiple drop downs or fill in the blanks, and that's 20 points. But it's a small percentage of the grade. So the speaking, we have two main speaking assessments in this course. This first one is something we do in all our lower division. We really love it. So I put it here also. We call it hablar in the other lower division classes. Basically, in advance, the instructor will give the student a list of 8 to 10 questions or topics. And then when they come to class, they're paired up sort of randomly, groups of 3. And then they have to talk for 30 minutes, okay? We do it even in Spanish 1, except I think it's about 15 to 20 minutes. But it really builds their confidence and it works surprisingly well. So again, we're not walking around listening, oh, they conjugated that verb wrong, or that you said instead of estar. It's really about, you can see here with the rubric, their preparation, their level of participation, they're a conversation leader, they're interacting. It's not just a monologue or a list of questions. So that's how we grade those. No English is allowed. And the instructors are allowed to choose the questions based on the types of discussions they've been having in class and the things that they've talked about. So I don't micromanage that or standardize that, but these are the types of questions they might get. What worries you the most about your future? What does a grade represent to you? What are the hardest parts of studying abroad? Who is responsible for social welfare? Why do you think immigration is so controversial? How do we know if we are tolerant? Do you think the values of people belonging to different social classes are different? Explain. Do you think there are countries where people aren't obsessed with youth and physical appearances? And if so, what makes them different? So these are the type of questions that's why we give them the questions in advance so they can think about it. They can't memorize anything. It's not really possible. And then they come up and we pair them randomly and they talk for 30 minutes. Okay, so the last thing is Conversify. Has anyone heard of Conversify? Talk Abroad? Talk Abroad. Okay, I think Talk Abroad is probably more popular than Conversify. They're basically platforms for doing like video chats with native speakers in other countries. We've used Talk Abroad in lower division, maybe like 8 years now. We really, really like it. But I had been getting emails from the Conversify people. Would you try it? And I didn't have to change everything. But then when I had to create this new course, I checked it out and decided to go with Conversify. Talk Abroad, if you're interested, is like 30-minute conversations. So we only do a couple. These are 15-minute conversations and the students can buy a package of 6. So that's what they do. We do 6 conversations, 15 minutes each. They offer a really long list of topics that you can set up in advance. And so I went through all the topics and I chose the 6 topics that best matched up with the themes of our course. And so these were the topics that I chose for them. And they can log on at any time. They give them time periods where there are conversation partners there and they can just hop on, start talking with somebody. It records it. So that's why we really like these, because then when they're done, they can go back, they can watch their recording, then they can reflect on what they did well, what they struggled with, try to find some mistakes that they made. So it's really that recording feature that makes it work really well for us. Instructors do not go in and listen to all their students' 15 or 30-minute conversations. That's for the student. It's the follow-up activity that's graded, okay? So these are the kinds of questions we ask. What was the most successful aspect of your conversation? What was the greatest difficulty you had? What communicative strategies helped you the most? Identify 2 errors, explain, correct and explain. What did you learn from your conversation partner? Summarize what they told you about the topic. Maybe you learned something about, their culture, different perspectives, customs, et cetera, okay? So keep in mind that the students who are taking both classes, in 311, they're doing 2 30-minute Talk Abroad activities and 6 15-minute Conversify activities. So it's a lot of that speaking, but the students seem to like it and, we've gotten all positive feedback so far. Okay, so final thing, I did talk fast. Okay, final thing, after about a year of the course being offered, I got some student feedback, and these were the types of things that they said. I really enjoyed how this class was more about class participation and speaking practice instead of purely worksheets and written grammatical work. I love the structure of the course with many short films and movies that help us learn how Spanish is truly spoken and learn about Spanish and Latin American culture. I feel like coming into this course, speaking was the weakest out of all of my Spanish skills. That's really common, but this course has really helped with that. I loved the assignments, especially the movies, because they talked about real and important topics that come up day to day. Although I'm a heritage speaker, the class helped me develop a stronger vocabulary and more confidence, and my conversation skills have improved drastically in this course. So we've been really, really happy with how it's working, even though we felt like we were losing when we lost 611, and not everybody takes this course. The combination is really nice, and the students who do take it, I think, definitely benefit. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know we're gonna have some questions.
Yeah, no, that's great. Any questions? Yeah.
Start us off, yeah.
I wish that I had a course like that as an undergrad.
Oh, me too,
I wish I
exactly.
had courses designed like that. Because my film courses and my literature courses are very, very impactful.
Right.
But they weren't, this usage-based
Yeah.
idea, which I think is so important.
Yeah.
So great.
No, I feel the same way. I mean, and speaking was my weakest skill, as it is for many students, non-native speakers, and I would have loved something like this for sure. And they feel, they're not constantly worried about making mistakes like they are in the other classes, even though the mistakes aren't tragic in the other classes either. They feel like they are, but in this class is definitely a more relaxed environment.
So I super applaud your efforts to degrammatical things.
Yeah.
Trying to push that aside. And this is not even devil's advocate question, it's more of a, we know a lot of our colleagues, what is to prevent that, even that singular day from becoming a front loading of grammar so that it isn't grammar in context to support the speaking activities and the usage activities, but instead to go back to the old lists and grammatical explanations and embedded videos. Here's me
Like if there would be a lecture. I think that happens because they're learning all that content in the other course, which isn't supposed to be a lecture either. But I really don't think it would happen in this course, just because they're focusing more on the theme. So who has taught it? You've taught this course. Okay. Can you tell, do you feel like there's a lot of grammar in the course?
No, there's no grammar. And the good thing for students taking the 311 class is that it really complements the conversation class.
Right.
It's true that some of the students who took 311 the previous semester, they may feel a bit lost at the beginning, but it's about refreshing the.
Right. So some students only take the 311 without realizing they can do 314, then later on take the 314, which is not ideal, but it can happen. Yeah.
And it's not, grammar is, as you say, it's an obstacle, it's not an obstacle, it's like just a bit of refresh about the data. And as they have the movies and the articles, they can go back and see the language and content.
I would imagine it's more kind of questions that pop up from time to time that may lead to a short little discussion, right? If students might have questions about something, but there definitely shouldn't be like class sessions dedicated to grammar in this class at all.
But also the good thing is that they help themselves among each other.
Oh yeah,
So,
even in 311, even in
Yeah.
the other classes, yeah.
it's also promotes
So I haven't gotten a chance to teach the class yet. I want to teach the class, but I keep getting other classes.
Other than
But-
Gael Garcia Bernal films, which I know.
It's an accident.
Good movie though.
They were, it was about finding movies that matched up with the themes, but it is kind of funny.
Well, he's got this incredible ethos with both millennials and even Gen Z.
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask, so what were the criteria for selecting those three films, other than it being?
It really was just matching up with the themes, trying to find something that was some historical or something that related to identity or colorism or, yeah, it really was about the themes. And the students always say they love watching the movies. I think that's one of their favorite parts.
Other than submitting a list of vocabulary, do the students do anything with the vocabulary that they have?
No, that's a really good question. So I had thought earlier, should we should we somehow quiz it or should we assess them somehow? There's nothing standardized for that, but I know instructors are doing different things. Like I was just chatting with an instructor last week who is making small quizzes out of these vocab lists. But I don't, did you do anything specific with vocabulary?
For the exam, sometimes I may modify some of the questions and then introduce any of the vocabulary that I might think is relevant, but since each student do their own list, it's quite difficult like to assess it like in just one way. So it's quite personal to each student because some of them they choose vocabulary from the movies, others can choose from the article.
Right.
So it's kind of like open. So
Yeah, and I don't think they're doing it very randomly because almost all of those homework assignment activities will have a section, you know, pick 5 words from this reading that you thought were interesting or that you learned that are new for you, and then they jot those down. And so I imagine they're using a lot of those words that they're gathering little by little to make the list in the end.
yes, I just make sure that they choose words that they are not familiarized with. They're not too basic level. For example, they cannot include words such as acción or perro, too basic words. So I just make sure that they.
So you're really looking through the
Yes,
vocabulary. Well, that's the idea. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
So it's like new words for them, like complex words like
Yeah.
referendum or things like that. I mean, just to see that they made an effort to
Yeah.
New words that they may use. Like,
Right,
in the
right.
advanced level, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a way to elaborate on that and make it maybe more impactful, but at the same time, I do think it's better doing this than having a standard vocab list for everyone, because so many times in those standard lists, somebody might know 70% of those words already, but they could be learning other words, so I like that it's individual to each student.
And it encourages fun. I think it's
Right.
really cool, but my question is did you go back and read them all? Because that can get really overwhelming. If
Yeah.
you're getting 40 new words and they've had to use them in a sentence. I don't know what the vocabulary list looked like. Like, was it just a word in Spanish and the translation and you made sure they had it right? Or was it, they also had to use it in an example sentence and then you have to correct that example sentence for 50 students or however.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just wondering how that functioned.
It's a bit of like everything. I mean, just have a quick, general look to the list. I mean, I see like the complexity of the vocabulary is intermediate advanced, and also I also look for like double consonants within to use it because they are more common in English than in Spanish. So it's a bit of everything. The rubric is reflected about the level of the word. No, it's not actually reflecting the spelling, things like that. But I was also making annotations, but I'll be careful with double consonants because I saw in your list that you have like the spelling's wrong. It's basically pay attention to the complexity of like they are related to the topics that we're also working in that one.
Yeah, I think it's good to be looking through it and putting some comments, but at the same time, I didn't set up anything that everyone had to do because I was also thinking of their workload and didn't, but like I said, it's all faculty. And so I trust everybody to be doing a pretty good job with it.
Been working well with classes. Like I also asked them to introduce expressions and idioms. So they find it very useful as well. Not only nouns, adjectives, verbs, also
Right.
expressions, because they really like them.
And those are the hardest, and they need to learn those. Yeah.
And they like to use them when they're in a conversation that keeps it like that. Feeling that they're using real language.
Yeah.
Along that line, when I read for pleasure, I ask myself, would I have thought to say it like this? I come across a phrase and I'll underline it, so like on my books, you've got like subjunctive, and not I doing this and that. And I find sometimes I don't see an opportunity to go back and use that exact same phrase, but it gets me thinking beyond what I actually just created.
Right. And that's why it's so helpful to use authentic materials. I mean, we try to do a lot of that in all the other lower division classes, but the main challenge that we have is just the lack of time. I mean, all of you who teach languages, there's a lot to cover. There's not a lot of time. You're trying to get all 4 skills in. And so this class is the first time we've really had a lot of time to work on speaking.
On that note, actually, since he's not here, let me channel as best I can Carl Bly for a minute, his translanguaging kind of imperative right now. So with something as translanguage as Spanish and so many Spanishes globally.
Right.
At this level, how much attention is paid to making sure that learners are getting not just a one size fits all, this is the Spanish spoken here, but rather the way Spanish does sound globally.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge for sure with Spanish. I mean, and we do start even in Spanish 1, introducing them to some dialectal variation. We're not expecting them to imitate it or reproduce it or, that's fine. But just so when they hear it, they kind of know what it is. And so I think the fact that, we've got films and readings from different places, that it's helpful.
Also, Conversify is great for that.
Right, because the Conversify speakers, so initially they were just either Mexico or Spain, but I think they have more countries now.
Yes.
Talk Abroad has a lot of countries.
Yes, now they Conversify has all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So they might have a conversation partner from, a different country every time. Yeah,
Yeah, and Conversify is great, and they love it.
yeah.
Because Convert, for example, Talk Abroad, it's designed more like it's in social media, and it's more attractive for them.
Mhm.
It's easier to navigate, and also the fact that the conversation lasts only 15
Only
minutes.
15 minutes, uh-huh.
And also I think the people in Conversify are like younger, so
They're mostly college, I think they're mostly college students
They
also.
need to be under of the age, so
Mhm.
they feel more connected, and also it offers the fact would be the opportunity, don't want to pay for the conversation, they can be a coach.
Right, mhm.
So they also see themselves in the other side of helping other people to
Yeah.
to practice their English. So it's
Yeah, we put that in the syllabus. So basically the way it works, if they offer to be a speaking conversation partner in English, then they earn credits, and so they don't have to pay for their own conversations.
many of them are doing that. They love it.
Well, it's nice to see the other side of it too. I think it can be really helpful to be on the other side of the conversation.
How expensive?
So it's $38 for 6 conversations. And honestly, we don't feel bad about it because there's no textbook to buy. There's nothing else for the course, so 6 conversations, 15 minutes each, $38.
And the students are paying for that?
The students pay for it. Mhm. Yeah.
And so I was kind of wondering the time difference, do you have any? Time
Oh.
difference? I'm talking about this.
Yeah.
You don't really have any. 2-3 hours. Okay, so it's not.
Yeah.
It's an always program with.
Yeah. Is it 7 hours difference for Spain, I think? Yeah, 7.
For Spain, that's true, yeah.
But if it's morning time here and it's
Yeah.
evening, it's not possible. I mean, it's not impossible. It works.
So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
all languages?
I don't know. I think they might only have a few. Talk Abroad may have more languages available. So check out both. And there are others that I'm not familiar with either, but we're really happy with it. I mean, there are a lot of native speakers here that students could just speak with, but it's really the fact that there's the recording and they get to go back and reflect on it that really helps. And also the speaking partners do receive some training about how to interact and how to, rephrase things and slow down and make it more manageable, especially for our Spanish 1 students who also do this type of thing. The conversation partners help them get through it.
This is very inspiring.
I thought, not everybody has the option to have an extra 3 credit course that you can take at the same time. That model might not be possible for everyone, but I've also thought, a lot of languages do have a bridge course. And the bridge course, in my experience, has always been grammar and writing type stuff. But why can't a bridge course focus more on speaking when that's what students need? So I don't know. I think there are a lot of options, even if your program looks very different. Mhm. Anything else? Comments, questions?
Will you put the PowerPoint on?
I'll share. I'm happy to share it. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm happy to chat with any of you if you have questions about, the online chats or the structure of the syllabus or anything. Happy to chat with you.
Can I ask?
Sure.
How is the grading? I mean, you showed all the grading. How is the student actual grade? Just wondering.
In terms of
The final grades in the end,
Oh. It actually depends on how the student's performance. Some of them are really more willing to participate in the sessions, and also I really like this. An aspect I really like about this course is some of them start the semester by being very shy, very small in the class, and they towards the end of the semester, they feel confident by using their Spanish, so that's probably the aspect that we like the most about this course, like their ability to speak in public. They are very shy.
Yeah, getting over the fear, the confident, building the
They
confidence.
feel the Spanish is like not enough, and they don't have the tool, but actually they try. I also like to switch groups so they know each other, so they get more confident
Mhm.
with the group, but yeah, it actually depends, and some more
Yeah.
getting more involved, but in general, the results are really good.
I've seen a lot of the final grades and they're sort of high. I mean, and also you have to keep in mind that this is not a required course where a bunch of people are there, not so much because they want to be, right? Everyone taking this course wants to improve their Spanish. They're either pursuing a major or a minor or a certificate. So they're going to be more motivated to begin with. So I think it's a lot of A's and B's. I can't imagine there were a lot of C's or D's or F's. No, probably not. Probably not. That it?
I
Okay.
just think like the feedback we get, no matter how
Mhm.
much speaking we incorporate
Yeah.
in our classes, the feedback we always get. "Can we
It's
get
never
more
enough.
speaking?"
I
In
know.
a way, this is formalizing the conversation hour. that we should-
Yeah.
you know,
And the same goes for the cultural component, you know, because there's a lot of culture in this class. And we used to have some movies and cultural content in our original 611. But when I would speak with the instructors, they would say, well, today we had 7 minutes to talk about the movie, or today, and it was just absolutely ridiculous. And I thought, this is not functioning. So in the end, you know, I was stressed about reducing 18 to 15 for the requirement, but I think in the end it worked out pretty well. All right, well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.